Good afternoon. This is Joe Peters, and we're about ready to get started with our Real Estate Matters broadcast. Today is the 6th of March. It is a little after 4 p.m. I'm in scenic downtown Flemington, and we're going to start off by giving you an intro to the weather and then the weather.
This is Georgine Trinkle. I want to invite you to listen to Hunterdon every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. You'll be treated to discussions on hot topics every week. Hunterdon provides a more in-depth look at issues that are happening right now. You can catch the show live and call in on what matters to you. Make sure to download the podcast to catch up on all our hot topics.
So I just got up to get us our official weather forecasting device, which is an Android, and we're going to take a look right now. We're sitting at 49 degrees in downtown Flemington. It's really rather nice out. It's not windy. It's sort of a lull before the storm. Let's take a daily look. It looks like we're going to get some snow starting this evening. Let's see if we can figure out what time. Looks like it's going to start by showers around 6 and then turn into a little bit of snow before midnight. And then if we take a look at tomorrow, we're going to have somewhere between 4 and 8 inches and windy. Hopefully that's all we get. And then on Thursday, it's going to be 40 and clearing, and then 42 on Friday. So the state is closed tomorrow. Most schools, I think, will be closed tomorrow. I really feel for the people that still don't have power back from last Friday's storm, which knocked a great part of people out. I know I have a listing up in Highbridge, and as of yesterday, he did not have power back yet. We actually had to cancel our open house last Sunday, and I hope we don't have to repeat that this Sunday. But there's plenty of warning. We knew this was coming for 3 days. Let's bear with it. And I'm going to play a few commercials, and I'll be right back, and then we'll get into what's happening in Hunterdon County real estate-wise.
You're listening to WHCR-DB, HunterdonChamberRadio.com. Brought to you by the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business.
¿Sabía que de cada 5 personas hay una que lucha con síntomas difíciles de salud mental? NAMI es una organización estatal sin fines de lucro. Somos empleados voluntarios. Somos la voz de la nación sobre las enfermedades mentales. NAMI te ofrece grupos de apoyo, educación e información. Nuestro programa educativo de familia a familia está dirigido por miembros de NAMI para familiares y amigos de personas que luchan con dificultad de salud mental. Llámanos al 888-803-3413. Recuerda, no estás solo. NAMI está contigo y no hay salud sin salud mental.
This is Tony Clark, paraplanner at Pat & Heidi & Associates. Americans believe they should be in charge of their own future, how they will live tomorrow. Since 1894, Ameriprise Financial has worked for their clients' futures, helping millions of Americans retire on their terms, when they want, where they want, doing what they want. Today, Pat & Heidi & Associates, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, Inc., remains true to the vision of always putting clients first. We are ready to help you put a confident retirement more within reach. Put the strength of a leader in retirement planning to work for you through a personal one-to-one relationship. Pat & Heidi & Associates will work with you to develop a plan to help you pursue your retirement goals. Call today at 908-713-6600. Office is located at 1318 Route 31 North, Annandale, New Jersey. Investment advisory products and services are made available through Ameriprise Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor, Ameriprise Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC.
Advancing Hunterdon is an ever-sharp focus on the growth and prosperity of Hunterdon County's businesses. Advancing Hunterdon engages businesses within and throughout the county that are responsive to a call to action as the next chapter in business success. If your business and organization wants to get engaged, contact the Chamber today at 908-782-7115 or give us an email at info@hunterdon-chamber.org. Advancing Hunterdon, a roadmap for economic growth for the business community of Hunterdon.
One of the biggest decisions in your lifetime is buying or selling a house. Choosing a realtor with strong client communication, technology, and marketing skills will dramatically improve your chance of success. That's why Hunterdon and Somerset's residents rely on Joe Peters. Joe believes his clients deserve a smooth and seamless experience, not a roller coaster ride. As a Coldwell Banker sales associate with 20 years of experience, he's helped hundreds of people to achieve their goals and dreams, no matter where they were in the buying or selling process. Joe accomplishes this by approaching every transaction from a business perspective. Initially, he tries to fully understand your goals and dreams and make them his own. Then he takes the mass amount of data that's available and distills it down to a few understandable action points. And finally, he controls the entire process through technology and marketing. The end result to you is a smooth, rewarding customer experience. Let Joe show you how to take his professional expertise and put it to work for you. To contact Joe, go to jpeters.com or call 908-238-0118.
Hey, once again, it's Joe Peters, and we're going to give you a rundown of what's happened in February real estate-wise in Hunterdon County and a little bit in Somerset County, which is our sister county. So people ask me, where can I find this information? If you go to my site, jpeters.com, you will find under the blogs tab a monthly market update section. There's a Somerset County version, there's a Hunterdon County version, and then there's a few other splinter towns that I work in, such as Warren Township and Bridgewater. You can find these updates there. It looks something like this, and everything that I'm looking at can be found there, and then previous months are there as well. Another question I get is, where do you get this information from? Really three places. I think being a blogger, as I am, I blog every day on something. A lot of times it's just reposting other people's information, but at month end it's aggregating a lot or curating a lot of information from several different places. And the very first is the statistics, where you can actually see how many properties we've sold, looks something like this, per town, per price point, and how many months supply we have. Those statistics I get off of Garden State MLS. I actually get up on the first of the month. Before most other people get up, I get up around 5 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock I've gone and gathered all the statistics, and by about that time people are logging on and they start to change because it's a live system. I remember Edith Bunker used to say, Archie, once they take the picture, the people keep moving. Well, once we take these statistics, the statistics keep moving as well. It's real time. As people add a listing or close out a listing, the numbers change. So I try to get to them first thing, and they're fairly accurate. I can't say, and there is a disclaimer, that I don't make an error now and then, but I try to verify everything, and I think the numbers you'll find are fairly accurate as of that point in time. And once again, they keep changing. The second place I get information from are two monthly periodicals I subscribe to. One is a newsletter that is put out by a leading valuation specialist in New Jersey. I also go to his seminars, and I read through that and take some of my information from there as general knowledge. His information is copyrighted, and I try not to copy anything verbatim. But the second one is there's a subscription I subscribe to which talks more on a national basis what the trends are and what we're seeing in the economy and in the real estate market. So between Garden State MLS and those two resources, I put together a picture which is what I'm going to go through right now. I try to think of things from two viewpoints. The first being what happened, and that's the first part of my market report. And then the second is the why it happened part of it, or the reasoning. Because just knowing what happened doesn't help you understand how you can get around the problem and what's causing the issue that you might see. So let's go through the what is happening, and we're going to go through the Hunterdon County part of it first. First things first, we had 144 sales in the month of February, being a short month, 28 days this year, and being a winter month, and it was fairly, I wouldn't say it was inclement, but it wasn't the warmest of Februarys. We had a pretty good month. We had 144 sales, average sale taking 66 days between the day it was listed and the day it went under contract. And that was down from, really up from 107 the month before. So in effect, January was a slower month, and in February we actually had a little bit of a difference, and actually had about a 40% difference, and that's good news. Of the sales that we had, and what I call something a sale, I mean it was listed and it now has gone under contract. And that's considered something that went under contract in the last 30 days, and I loosely term those as sales. They'll close in the next 30 to 60 days. Of those sales, we had 76% of our houses with list price under $500,000. I don't know what the actual price is till you do. The day it sells, it comes up and you can see it there. But 3/4 roughly under $500,000. The other 24% over 500, and of that, only 6%, or 9 in total, properties sold over $700,000. So if you think about it, and we take a look at the inventory supply over 700,000, we have 78, 125 properties, and of 125 properties, we sold 9. So that's about a 12.5-month supply once you get up there. It's always been that way, but it's getting a little softer. And we're going to talk about a couple of the reasons why it's getting a little softer as we go through. 4 areas in Hunterdon County literally had no sales at all last month: Frenchtown, Milford, Stockton, and West Amwell. And in another 6 areas only reported 1 or 2: Bloomsbury, Califon, Clinton, the town, Hampton, Highbridge, and Kingwood. Hot spots are the usual. Clinton Township is 1, 21 sales. Raritan Township, another, 28 sales. And we had 18 sales in Reddington. If you tick those 3 spots, we sell just about half of all the property in Hunterdon County. And that's a number that goes on month after month, month in, month out. We're somewhere between 45 and 55% in those 3 areas. The average new listing came on the market last month, in the month of February, for $485,600, and the average price point of going under contract was $392,500, or roughly 19% less. The reason is that the ones that just came on won't sell for a month or 2, and some of those will need a price adjustment because the price sometimes becomes optimistic at the listing point. If we look at the price points themselves, somewhere between 4 and 6 months is our average, average sale. That's when things are normal. Prices aren't going up, prices aren't going down. It's birds are singing and the rainbows are out and things are normal. And we're sitting right now with a 5-month supply for the overall Hunterdon County. And if you look all the way up till you get into the 600,000s, we're sitting with 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 4 months by price point. When you get above 700, we get into the point where we're sitting with 13 months, 9 months, 13 months, 21 months, over $1 million, 28 months. So the higher you go, it's typical, the less sales you have. There's less market, and that doesn't mean there's less inventory. It just means when you put your house on in the higher price points, it's going to take longer for it to sell, and it's going to take longer for it to sell because there's less buyers at that price point. And we have even less than we used to, and I'm going to explain why as we go through. If we look at the towns, most of our towns are between 5 and 6, some even below it, month supply, so it's in that normal range. The towns that we typically have a challenge with are the far western towns: Bloomsbury, 10-month supply; Hampton Borough, far north, 13-month supply; Kingwood to the west, 12-month supply; and Tewksbury, surprisingly, 13-month supply. Why I say surprisingly, if you take a look, Tewksbury is the first spot on 78 you find when you come into Hunterdon County. But there's a lot of high-end inventory in Tewksbury, and I think that's probably why we're seeing that number being up as high it is. So we have a total of 685 listings as of the first of the month, and we have sold 144 of them, and you divide 144 into 685. That's the 5-month supply we've got. Let's take a look at the same thing for Somerset County and see what we get, because it's a different picture. Somerset County, as you know, is the next county to the east, closer to New York. And when we look at Somerset County, we find that we have 343 sales where we only had 144 in Hunterdon. So it's a bigger county. It's about 2.5 times our size population-wise, and it's about 2.5 times our size sale-wise. We have 343 going under contract, average 63 days. Hunterdon County was an average of 66 days, so we're fairly similar there. And 436 new properties came on the market. Their average price point, well, first of all, 70% of their houses were under 500,000. 25% between 500 and $1 million, and 5%, or 16 sales in total, were over $1 million. So if you remember, I said we had 9 sales over 700,000 in Hunterdon. We had 16 sales over $1 million in Somerset. They have much higher price points than we do. And if you look at the areas that by price point are popular, you'll see that they stay, and they're sitting at a total inventory of 3 months supply. So they're actually in a point where prices are going up all the way up into the 800s before, 700,000, still a 4-month supply. 800 hits 9, and then 900, 6 months supply, and over $1 million's 13 months supply. Their towns, there's only one in double digits, and that's Watchung Borough. Don't know why that is, but I will tell you the average house price in Watchung is over $1 million, and that's one of the softer areas of our market right now, although it, with a little asterisk next to it, probably won't be soft for long. I think the people most affected by the tax cuts live in those areas, and those people probably want to talk to their accountants before they decide what to do this year, because last year's taxes aren't going to change and they have to be paid by April 15th, but next year's will, especially if we get to the high end where we're starting to see some effect of the SALT changes, the state and local tax change being capped at 10,000, and the interest is being capped at 750 instead of $1 million. So that's what's happening. We're sitting in a fairly active market. We're sitting with lots of buyers that cannot find inventory, and we're sitting with lots of sellers deciding not to put their house on the market until they can find something to buy because they're afraid it'll go under contract. They have to buy something they don't really want just to get out. And as a result of that, they're sort of in our own way and in their own way because the house they're looking for is in that same situation. That seller's not going to put it on until they find something they want. Here's what the economic drivers are showing. New Jersey home sales. We actually sold 2% more houses in 2018 than we did in 2017. The effect of the new Tax and Jobs Act is still being digested and may slow things down while the digestion takes place. I don't think it's going to slow things down permanently from what I'm reading. Activity concentrates in the under 400,000 in Hunterdon, and in Somerset you can just bump it up 20% and say under 500,000. That's where our millennial buyers are, and that's where our first-time buyers are, and then that creates a second-time buyer, and they're probably still under 500,000. And that's where 3/4 of our activity was. If you remember, it was 76% in Hunterdon and 80% in Somerset. At the same time, the number of homes offered for sale in New Jersey remains low and has recently decreased. The supply decreased by 4,400 homes based on comparing it to a year ago, and 39,000 or 53% less houses when we look at the peak, which was in 2011. In other words, we have less than half the houses we had in 2011, and that was 7 years ago. Current unsold inventory in New Jersey sits at 4.7 months, so with 3 and 5 months supply, we're seeing that pretty well done. And it's 5.5 months supply a year ago. So unsold inventory has dropped down as well. We have an acute shortage of inventory in both Hunterdon and Somerset County. Both counties have 14% less than a year ago. One has 14% less, one has 16% less, and both counties have about 22% less than 2 years ago. So this is an issue, and we're going to cover why that's happening. Once again, I'm not only going to tell you what's happening, I'm going to tell you why it's happening. Interest rates. Interesting. Interest rates have gone up 0.6% since November. And we're forecasting that they will go up another 0.5% by the end of the year. If interest rates merely go up 1 full point from 4 to 5, which it looks like they're going to do that and then a little more, you're going to lose 9% of your buying power. And 9% of your buying power on a $500,000 house says you now can only afford a $455,000 house. On top of that, we saw a 3.5% increase in prices across the state last year. And if you look at the more popular price points in areas, it's probably more like 5 or 6% because the higher price points probably didn't get any increase. So if you add 9 or 10% because the interest went up and another 5% because your prices went up, you're going to wind up, instead of buying a $500,000 house, you're going to be buying a $425,000 house. That's a concern. And as a result of it, it's nothing that's new to anybody's thinking as being a concern. There is a mad scurry out there to get into housing before it gets any worse. The national job front, U.S. unemployment 4.1%, the best level it's been as far as new filings in 43 years. And it's rumored, or forecasted more than rumored, to go down to about 3.8 in the upcoming year, in 2018. So we're doing really well unemployment-wise on a country basis. And in effect, we're going to be probably a little less in 2017 as far as jobs from 2016, but only about a 5% difference. We're doing better each month. The numbers look better. The U-free employment rate is 4.1. They do count part-time jobs in that. If you discounted part-time, just looked at full-time, it's 8.2. But the statistic used for comparison is always the U-free rate, and we're sitting at 4.1%. But the momentum is building, and the result is consumer confidence is the highest we've seen since 2004. It's great news for the housing industry. Once again, all of this information is on my site, jpeters.com, under blogs, under market updates. The New Jersey job front, far different picture. New Jersey job front is we've actually lost jobs in the last year. And let me just run you through what the last 3 years looked like. We had in 2016 59,000 jobs. In 2017, we only had 23,000 jobs, about half, 61% off. And that's a concern because we're not adding the jobs that we need to add in New Jersey. Why is that? I think to a great extent, we're losing a lot of the companies in New Jersey elsewhere. 2/3 of all moves, according to one of the larger van lines, are out of the state versus into the state. And people are finding that if they want a decent job, and they need a decent job to buy a house, they have to go all the way to New York City, where over the last 10 or 15 years, they were able to find employment where they could work out of the house for 2 or 3 days a week, maybe go into the city once a week, twice a week. Now they're finding they need to be in New York City, and that's changing the demographics of how we're selling houses. Rental market trends. Let me just go through that, and I'm going to come back and recap this and paint you an overall picture of what it means. We still have an extremely tight rental market. Prior restrictive mortgage standards nudged the millennials to postpone their home ownership in life later than previous seen, and we've actually added about 7 years to when they buy their first house. These potential buyers lived with their parents, and we're now starting to see them re-enter the rental and first-time buyer market. And the average first-time buyer moved from 29 years old to 37 years old over the past 5 to 10 years. Older Americans impacted by underfunding retirement plans due to economic downturn rent houses too. Rental prices as a result in New Jersey rose 4% in 2017. We're now averaging almost $1,500 per unit. That's for a one-bedroom apartment. And the vacancy rate sitting at 3.5% with a national rate of 4.5%. It's usually around 7 or 8%. So we have a lot fewer rentals for those two reasons. In a lot of cases, when I find a millennial or a first-time buyer looking to rent, I can show them, if they've got decent credit and a job and a little bit of money has accumulated, that they can buy the same place cheaper than rent it. The drop in New Jersey's home ownership contributes to the rental demand as well. A 12-plus year trend showed a decrease of 71% all the way down to 62%, and now it's bumped up a little bit. It's more like 64%, so it's on the increase, but this is part of the rental issue. And if you take a look at it, we have over 200,000 additional renters in the state than we had just a few years ago. 1 or 2 person households with no children stands at 65%, reflecting our school population. That is an interesting statistic, and we're going to come back to it and talk to it in a little more detail before we finish here today. The foreclosure front, we've gotten a little better. I mean, a little better, a little is a relative word, but we had 74,000 foreclosures in 16. We only had 71,000 in 17. It's a little bit better, but it dropped us to 3rd place. And right now, we've got Florida and Louisiana ahead of us, and the national baseline on foreclosure filings is about 1.7%, but we're still at about 3.9%. So we still have a lot to go through, but it's diminishing, and it's what we're calling normalizing. The effect of the tax cuts. This is a subject matter that we could sit here and probably do a whole show on, and I'd have to get a couple of industry experts in to talk about it. But I'm going to tell you, because I cannot give tax advice, what my understanding is from what I've read. State and local taxes, or SALT as we call it, are now limited to $10,000 deductions going forward. So if you had a $15,000 tax on your house, that's a state tax, and in effect, the real estate taxes now you can only deduct $10,000, you've lost $5,000 in deductions. And you're probably paying marginal interest taxes on that of about low 30%. So you're going to lose about $1,500 cold cash there. But your whole tax ratio slid down, and we're going to talk a little about that. So most people aren't going to get hurt by it, but they're only looking at what they're losing, not what they're gaining. So state and local taxes now limited to $10,000. Mortgage and interest deductions are now limited to $750,000. So you would have to be buying, and that got grandfathered, because if you had $1 million mortgage, which is the max you could claim in 2017, and you didn't do anything with that house and you still own it, you still can deduct up to $1 million in mortgageable interest because that got grandfathered. But the only people getting affected here are the people buying between $932 and $1,250, and they put 20% down, and those are the people that are mortgaging between $750 and $1 million. That $750 to $1 million on new properties is now no longer tax deductible. It also is taxed at your marginal percent, so you are going to lose money on income tax deduction, but on a new purchase you probably never had it to start with, so you're just not going to gain that extra tax shelter. But it's also going to be offset by the entire income scale sliding down. Then the third thing that we're seeing is the home equity line of credit has disappeared as far as a tax deduction. The only way you can use your home equity, or HELOC they call it, line of credit, and claim it as a tax deduction is if you borrowed money against your house and put the money back into that house. Then it's a tax deduction. Always has been, and for now, it still is. However, if you borrowed money against your home and used it to pay off child's education, or your second home, or your debt, or any other reason, including medical, it is not a tax deduction any longer. There's only one way you can claim it as a tax deduction, and that is if you reinvested in the house that you live in. Now, there's a lot of tax strategies being bantered around. If you have a secondary home, all of the interest on a secondary home is not tax deductible. So let's say you have a $500,000 on your first and a $250,000 on your second. You'd only get a $500,000 worth of interest tax deduction. But if you refinanced your first at $750,000 and paid off your second, you then could claim the old $750,000. So there's some ways around it. I'm not saying it's the right thing or the wrong thing. You need to talk to your tax advisors and your income tax people in order to understand it. But in a nutshell, sitting here on the 6th of March, it's still a little too early to tell, but we know a lot more than we knew last month. And one of the statistics I saw from one of these services that I gleaned my report from says that in order for the SALT and or the mortgage interest tax deduction to affect you more than the effect of your taxes now being lower in general, you would have to earn $400,000 as a single individual and own a house that's over $1 million. Or as a couple, earn $750,000 and own a house that's worth more than $1.5 million. So it's really the people in the upper stratosphere of home ownership and earning capability that are going to be affected by this. And that's the way the law was intended. And that's the way it's going to work. And to a good extent, it's not going to affect a lot of people, but there are some people that own homes in those price ranges and make salaries in those price ranges, and those people are going to be affected. So let me go through the recap, because this is provocative. It really pulls together a lot of thinking into the next 15 minutes, and as at the end of it, I think you're going to walk away saying, wow, it has changed. 2017, 7th straight year of 2 million plus job gains. Yay, good news. But New Jersey's situation tanked over the last couple of years, and at 5% unemployment, we're at almost 25% more unemployment than national average. The best paying jobs are now in New York. They used to be there. I went to New York for 23 years. I found a way to stay in New Jersey and earn income, but in effect, if you're looking for a new job, you're probably going to go to New York. That's where the best paying and the most attractive jobs are. Interest rates have already risen by 0.5 point. They'll probably go up another half before the end of the year. And house prices have risen 3% in the popular price points, probably even a little more than that, and they haven't risen much at all in the over 600,000 price range, maybe even over the 500,000. But in effect, we did get a 3.5% price appreciation across the state of New Jersey versus 2 point something the year before and versus another 3% forecasted for this year. Baby boomers, this is probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you, is baby boomers are choosing to stay put rather than move up. So what does that mean? That means when I had a $525,000 house and the house on the next block that I always liked came on the market for $750,000, I sold my first house and bought the second. It was probably what you could call house lust. I didn't really need it. There was just two of us. The house we had was perfect, but this was a bigger house and it was a house we always wanted. So we did it because we felt it would be a good tax investment and it would appreciate in value and give us a lot of interest back. Both of those things have stopped happening. The houses above 750 are not appreciating the way they used to, if at all. They may even be dropping. And the taxes both from an income tax viewpoint and from a state tax viewpoint, mortgage interest viewpoint, are in a lot of cases no longer deductible. So the fact that the baby boomers are staying put instead of moving up means we have less houses on the market where the millennials and second-time buyers want to buy. And we're not building any entry-level houses at this point in time. You tell me where you see a brand new house for $200,000 to $300,000 in Hunterdon or Somerset County. I haven't seen any. And there's a lot of reasons behind it. A lot of it is based on some of the affordable housing rulings and what it restricts you can and cannot do. Some cities actually have to make up before they can build anything, and it's being challenged, and until those challenges get sort of sorted out, there's not going to be any more entry-level housing. So what are we building? We're building bigger houses, Center Hall Colonials, because we're jurisdicted into building on 1, 2, 3 acre lots, and based on the building codes, you can't build a little 1,800 square foot on a 3 acre lot. They're looking for a 4-bedroom Center Hall Colonial size house. So there's a lot of confidence that the new Tax and Jobs Act will further stimulate the economy with more jobs. We're going to get to that. That's key, because it's not only tax, it's jobs. So the tax is not as hurtful as we first thought it was. But if you're in the stratosphere, if you're earning more than $400,000, you got a house that's worth more than $1 million, and maybe touching you, starting to touch you. And my last point there is it's only going to affect those upper-end buyers. Here's another key thing happening, changing in lifestyle. Average age of marriage is now in the late 30s. That's up 7 years from a decade ago. And people don't typically buy their first house until they're married. So families are usually having 1, maybe 2 children, so they're having smaller families. 65% of all the houses in New Jersey do not have a child of school age in them. So only 1/3 of all the houses in New Jersey have school-age children in them. Say that backwards. 50% of all the houses in New Jersey don't have 2 adults in it, or any kids of school age. Demand for large-in housing has diminished. Yet what did I say we're just building? Center Hall Colonials on 1, 2, 3 acre lots. So we've got a diminishing demand, and that's what we're building. As a result of the job situation in New York, people are going to what we call a European lifestyle and living within 15 miles and a half hour of where they work, and demanding that there is mass transportation, bus or train from where they live into that metropolitan area. So what does that mean to us? That means when people used to move all the way out to the areas in Hunterdon County that are popular, Reddington, Raritan, Clinton Township, that's not happening anymore, or at least to the extent that it used to happen. They're stopping at the 15-mile mark, which is somewhere on the other side of 287. As a result, our upper-priced housing do not have the market of buyers that we once had. There's still a market, but it's not what it once was. So builders are thinking 4-bedroom Center Hall Colonials, and buyers are thinking high-rise, close to mass transportation and work. It's like, I'm half Polish, I'm a Polish bridge builder. The two ends aren't meeting. And once again, I can tell that joke because I'm half Polish. But we're building things from our thought process of 10 to 20 years ago, and we're buying and looking to buy things that are different, and in a lot of instances, those things are not available. But new building in New Jersey is going to high-rise rentables, not to single-family for purchase. Market conditions. Consumer confidence, all-time high. It couldn't be better. It's based on the stock market, and it's based on the job reports. Confidence is reflected in the buyer traffic that we're seeing at open houses. We have a lot less houses, so we have a lot less open houses. But those open houses are packed, especially if they're under 500. I had a customer of mine went over to see a piece of property in North Plainfield. Didn't necessarily want to live there, but wanted to see what his money would buy over there. And I was sitting in an open house, so he went on his own, and I let the agent know he was coming. he said it was a line out to the street to get in. And when they got to the door, they were told the house already has under contract, but they're accepting backup contracts. That was the first day it was on the market. That's what open houses are looking like in the popular towns with transportation, in the popular price points. Millennials make up 24% of our current homeowners, and it could be double that if we had enough inventory to sell them. Central Jersey's trend for 2016 and 17 showed a surge in home sales, but increases only in houses clustered under the 500,000 mark, where those first-time buyers of millennials are focused. The 600-plus market is steady to diminishing slightly, depending on the location and price, and location is important. Remember, as I said, if you're out to the west, it's even harder, no matter what your price point is. And often a $600,000 property is going to be competing with a leftover $700,000 from last year that had to mark it down in order to get it sold, and as a result, his is taking longer to sell. Minimal new construction and lack of entry-level new housing add additional value to the current inventory. So the current inventory is being priced up because there's no new construction. Analysts' 5-year forecast indicates a slow and steady price growth of an annual 3 to 4%. There's an acute shortage currently of inventory, both in Hunterdon and Somerset County. Let me give you those numbers again. 22% less inventory than 2 years ago, 12% less than a year ago, and about 50% of less than 7 years ago. In 2017, prices rose, but depending on the price points and locations. 2018 remains, promises to be strong, but time is going to tell. And then mortgage delinquency is normalizing, so we don't have as many foreclosures and bank sales as we did over the past few years, but there's still enough out there if you're really looking for that. So let's look at the forecast. Once again, my name is Joe Peters. If you'd like to talk to me about any of these items or have me come over and sit down and talk to you in your house, 908-238-0118. I'd be glad to do this. I do it several times a week with people who do call in. And what I try to do is give them an understanding of how the market is around them, and then if they want me to go further, I can give them a current value of the market for their house and how it could best be marketed. But here's our forecast going forward. The economy will continue to prosper. There's no recession in sight. When President Trump came on, we thought we'd have a recession at the end of 2018. Love him or hate him, he's got the economy going where it needs to be going, and the recession is now off the table. It's no longer in sight. Interest rates will climb to about 5% by year end, further decreasing the buying power of our buyers. Home prices at the same time will increase another 3%, and the more popular price points, it'll probably decrease 5 or 6%, and the less popular price points, the above 6s, it may not decrease at all. You may be taking a price cut to sell your house. Supply will remain tight in residential real estate. It's gotten to half of what it was just 7 years ago. It's gotten to 22% of what it was just 2 years ago. Last year was tight, and we're now 12% under that. Some decrease in home ownership could result from the Tax Act. Now, this is a whole different thought. The average home purchase in New Jersey is about $330,000. In Hunterdon and Somerset County, our average is higher than that. I mean, Hunterdon's in around 4, and Somerset more close to 455. But the average for the whole state, because there's a lot of rural, is about 3 to 330. If the interest on that is not as much as your standard deduction, the argument for owning a home to have a tax shelter goes away. And as a result of it, there may be less inclination to buy and mortgage a house and more inclination just to pay rent and keep the change because you're getting the money whether you own or not. Now, if you get to the point where you can take that first $750,000 of interest deduction and the $10,000 worth of taxes, well, then it's a whole different argument. But the entry level or the average price for the state, the $300,000, it probably makes no sense anymore. And that's going to take years to sort itself out. But that's one of the forecasts that we're taking a look at. New jobs will be created with the Tax and Jobs Act. Some decrease in home ownership could result of what I just talked about. Some high-end fallout will result from the SALT and the mortgage interest changes, and that's what we just talked about. It's really high-end. I'm telling you, you've got to be earning $400,000 as a single or $750,000 as a couple, and own a house that's over $1 million or $1,500,000 in order for that to happen. The commercial real estate, because of the new jobs, that commercial market is set to flourish. The midterm elections are what we're calling a wild card. We don't know what they're going to bring. And there's nothing more that can be said on that. People in their home more than 10 years have very positive home equity built up, and more significant portion of payments applies to principal. So what I'm saying is, when you make your first payment, probably a few percentage go towards principal and 98% goes to interest and taxes. After you're in that house 10 years, which a lot of people are, you're now paying maybe 30% towards principal, and your equity is building up more and more. And it is a common thought that as people realize how much equity they have in their house, there's going to be an inclination for them to do something. One thing could be borrow against the equity and start a business. That's not a bad thought. If you're getting later in life, you're in your late 50s, the job dissolves on you, and you've got a nice piece of equity, and you always wanted to start that golf pro shop or fly tie shop or whatever it is, surfboarder shop, perfect time to do it, because that will give you not only something to do in a market that probably doesn't have a job for you any longer, and it will be easy to do and very inexpensive to finance by using your equity. So once again, you can find this information on jpeters.com under blog, and under blog you'll see a tab for monthly market reports, and the report looks like this. You can also give me a call at 908-238-0118. I'd be more than happy to talk to you, even if it's just to understand the market or to do an assessment of where your house fits into things. A lot of times, and I would say pretty typically, I start talking to a person a year or two before they're ready to do anything. And I'll give you just a good example. I talked to a couple 5 years ago, and we went out and looked at some houses. We priced their house. We were going to put them on the market, and then one of the two didn't feel so strong about their job situation, so we decided to put it on hold, and in effect, I didn't hear from them again until yesterday, and I got a phone call, and they're back in the market. It's 5 years later. So sometimes we talk, you understand, you take that information, and with it you can make a better informed decision, and when the time is right, you give me a buzz back, and we get re-engaged. My name's Joe Peters. Before I say goodbye, I'm going to play my commercial one more time, and I'll be right back.
One of the biggest decisions in your lifetime is buying or selling a house. Choosing a realtor with strong client communication, technology, and marketing skills will dramatically improve your chance of success. That's why Hunterdon and Somerset's residents rely on Joe Peters. Joe believes his clients deserve a smooth and seamless experience, not a roller coaster ride. As a Coldwell banker sales associate with 20 years of experience, he's helped hundreds of people to achieve their goals and dreams, no matter where they were in the buying or selling process. Joe accomplishes this by approaching every transaction from a business perspective. Initially, he tries to fully understand your goals and dreams and make them his own. Then he takes the mass amount of data that's available and distills it down to a few understandable action points. And finally, he controls the entire process through technology and marketing. The end result to you is a smooth, rewarding customer experience. Let Joe show you how to take his professional expertise and put it to work for you. To contact Joe, go to jpeters.com or call 908-238-0118.
Okay, I'd like to give you about 30 seconds of background information on myself. I've been a professional realtor now for 15 years. I'm with Coldwell Banker. I spent 14 years with Weichert before that, also a very good company. I had a very good time at Weichert, and only made a change because I felt after 14 years I needed to do something new with a different company. But I think very highly of Weichert. And I'm now with Coldwell Banker covering both Hunterdon and Somerset County for residential real estate. Before I got into real estate, I was a professional sales rep for two of the largest software houses in the world. One is Oracle applications, and the other was SAP applications. I sold to the retail vertical. I understand the sales cycle. I understand negotiation. I understand pricing, and I understand what is on people's minds as they move forward. And as a result, I've automated my process so that there's no surprises, no speed bumps. And I rely heavily, and this is one of the reasons I went to Coldwell Banker, on social media. When I list your house, I can, once it's listed, tell you where your customers are coming from for your price point by zip code, and I can use social media to go out and advertise to them directly in that zip code. This is unheard of in the industry. So, professional background, you can read on my site, there's a link to my Facebook references. I have excellent references of people. I've sold several hundred houses over the last 15 years, and I'd like to help you with yours. Whether you're thinking about selling in the next year or two, or thinking about buying, or would just like to talk to a realtor and understand what the market situation is and how it pertains to your situation, I would love to do it with you in a very non-salesy, no-pressure way. Give me a call, Joe Peters, Coldwell Banker, 908-238-0118. And once again, I cover all of Hunterdon and Somerset County. Thank you very much. I will see you next week, and I appreciate your time.
USA Radio News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has agreed to stop nuclear and missile tests if his